Happy Hammer Day. Wow, what an amazing day it has become. Connor Stallion showed up. They had a long hearing today. I don't know if it's ended, but it was ongoing very recently. Pat Forty is giving great coverage. Shout out to Pat for the thumbnail as well. Wow, it is here. It is a long day, long 2 day stretch. I'm sure it is intense. I'm sure there's a lot of grilling going on. Findings again. There's a lot of evidence, and it's going to be interesting. And not shockingly, Jim Harbaugh skipped it, which is a violation. All parties are supposed to be in attendance, but Jim Harbaugh lives on his own planet of stupidity, so he did not. Further hurts Michigan's chances as we race towards the hammer, which should be, in a few months, 90 to 180 days or so. This thing will get dropped, and it's gonna be fantastic. Can't wait to get into that. As always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell again. The trial has begun. This is absolutely amazing. And then the verdict will be here, in a few months. It'll take a little while, but it's going to be, it's just what it is, man. It's the legal process. It's slow, but man, to be a fly on the wall there. And there's some really good folks in there that we're going to be reaching out to. But with that being said, let's get Nevada in here. I got to move Spiro's thing out of here. Apologize, guys. Nevada, it is the day. It is Hammer Day. How are you doing today? How have you celebrated so far?
It's been a great day. Been a great day. Been, obviously eagerly watching my phone every time a message comes in to see what information is kind of coming in over the transom. And just before we about 12 minutes ago, I think maybe 15 minutes ago, get a little text from an interested party saying, and I'll read this to you. So I'll read this to you guys verbatim. It says, if you are Michigan, you have to be asking yourself, what in the world did I just sit through these last 8.5 hours? And how do I get myself out of this now? That's what I got. So I can only imagine that it's one thing to read this stuff, but to have to sit there and hear this stuff, because you have to understand the way that this goes. This is not a trial in that Connor Stallions was not there as a witness. Connor Stallions was there as an observer, as a guy to observe the proceedings, as was his right. But they're not like bringing people up there and they're grilling them and asking them questions and cross-examining them and bringing them back. I mean, they couldn't get that done in a 2-day trial. This is basically one-way traffic. This is the NCAA taking their entire investigation and laying it out for the Committee on Infraction, laying it out for them in terms of here's what happened, here's what rule it broke, here's the thing. And Michigan can ask questions about stuff relative to the process, relative to what statute was violated, et cetera, but it's not like a cross examination. So if you're Michigan, you're sitting there just getting this nonstop. So I like I said, I wish that I wish this was a pay-per-view special. I wish that we were there so we could have actually observed this. But I can only imagine for the people that were there, like the person that texted me, that it must have been pretty amazing just to sit there listening to all this, minute after minute, hour after hour of just allegation after allegation after allegation. You mentioned 11 separate violations, six level one violations, which is just an enormous amount of traffic for Michigan to try to dodge. Um, what a great first day! It'll be interesting to hear the Michigan spin. I think Michigan guys have got to be a little bit stunned by this whole thing because this is a hurricane. It's a hurricane of evidence coming out. There's no new evidence. There's no Perry Mason moments and stuff. They know all this stuff, but when you hear it and it's read and they go through each one of the 55 games that he pre-scouted, illegally, the money going back and forth, the Central Michigan caper. I mean, all this stuff kind of being laid bare. um, Bad day for Michigan. I'm not quite sure, where they go from here. And I'm certain that calmer heads in Michigan are just wondering why in the world didn't we settle this a long time ago and just take our punishment, because we could have a lot of this behind us and we could, you could see the horizon, you could see the future ahead. Now it's just they're staring into the abyss, and I'm not sure today was helpful to Michigan's cause at all. And that makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing about the wheels of justice is they do move very slowly because this is something where there's an inordinate amount of evidence here, and there is a lot of wrongdoing. And this is of all the cases in the history of the NCAA that have needed lack of institutional control. I can't imagine there's one that has this more than this. Given coming off Cheeseburger Gate, rolling right into Spygate. Again, with the electronic data that I'm sure they're able to procure from this, and Connor, hiding his servers and hiding his hard drives. Again, the thing I've always said, dude, if there's nothing on there, just give him that hard drive, let him comb through it. If there's not film, if there's not illicit stuff that's going to get you popped, then But I mean, he thinks he's slick, and again, you can always find that stuff once you've been on servers inside of Schembeckler Hall and you're on their Wi-Fi. Again, that's part of the deal is when you're doing that, it's like, you're subject to the university. As soon as you get on those university servers, man, they can back up and store anything that you do. And surely he was breaking film down and doing his little deal, and but maybe he wasn't. So I think that it's going to be fascinating to see this thing wind up and go. The Michigan side is very quiet. Again, I don't think that this thing's a joke, and we don't think it's a joke. And we've been saying it's going to be the hammer because look at how much evidence there is. And we've broken stuff down, and we've had Spiro on, and he's got tons of information that he can't even go with that he has sourced up. So this is going to be an amazing run. I'm so excited about it because it's here and it's going on. It's so ongoing. So it's going to be a fun few days on BuckeyeScoop.com for sure. Nevada, your thoughts? Again, there's zero surprise that Jim Harbaugh didn't show up, but has there been a coach who was at one point beloved, who has cared less about his alma mater, like in the history of coaching? Because he lied about everything. He ran this rogue program, which again, it was all out of desperation, because if they were winning, they wouldn't have had to do any of this, but they were about to be toast. I mean, they faked the COVID stuff so they could get out of the 2020 game where Ryan Day would have literally hung 100 points on them. They skipped out on that when we had a really good team that went to the national championship and they stunk. And then all of a sudden, they run this program. But what are your thoughts? I was thinking about that today. And again, he was supposed to show up today, not was supposed to, but I mean, in proper NCAA protocol, when there's parties involved in an issue like this, all parties must be present. And of course, he doesn't care at all. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Again, does it affect anything? And I've never seen a guy who cared less about his alma mater than Jim Harbaugh. I got to get him back in here real quick. But yeah, we're rolling into this thing, and it's been an amazing run on this. And I'm trying to think of what how far Michigan has fallen. Again, it reminds me a lot of Penn State. Penn State, when I played, early 2000s, they were a lot like Notre Dame, like holier than thou. We do everything. The schools that always say that they do everything the right way are they're the champions, or we would never, we're Michigan men. When they have these little mantras, there's always bad stuff behind that. And Jim Harbaugh is the king of it because he's Mr. Tell the truth, and what tangle webs we weave, and when we deceive, whatever the tweet was. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I'm always really leery of people that are overly I guess sanctimonious. Nevada, he's getting back in here, but I'm just so excited right now. This is going to be an amazing run for us. Starting to get some super chats in here. Hope you guys have a good Friday. We don't normally go on Friday, but we couldn't skip Hammer Day. You guys know how we do. We always like to get this thing in and have a really nice show for you guys. But yeah, I've been talking to some people that are on the ground there, and it's fascinating. And honestly, I think that it's severely undercovered at this point. It's surprising to me that the national media, 'cause again, I lived through Tattoo-Gate. I was in the Woody Hayes every day. I was there when they took a video of Terrell's lemon piece of crap 300ZX that broke. It was a lemon. I mean, people were like, "Oh, he has this fancy car." I was like, "Yeah, it's so fancy it doesn't start. It's a great car." and the kind of that whole disaster that we lived through. But it was kind of wall to wall media coverage at the time, and it was a deal where it's just a different time, I guess, because this thing, I imagine if Ohio State had these kind of allegations, it would be absolutely crazy at this point. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a very interesting run though, and they're going again tomorrow too. I mean, these things are not fun. Again, you guys have been. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a court proceeding or in any sort of litigation with your business or anything like that, but these things are very, very difficult. They're hard to get through. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff presented today, and it's absolutely crazy. I think that it's going to be a really interesting ordeal as these guys go through these sanctions and as these guys continue to go through this hearing. And it'll be interesting to see what Connor Stalions' outcome is in this, because he's gonna get smoked for what he did. Again, you can't be on another team's sideline. Central Michigan fired the staffer that let him on there. They fired the head coach. I mean, that action literally cost that entire staff their jobs. Jim McElwain fired for cause. Essentially, they let him retire, which again, I'm sure they went to him and said, hey, this will be a nice soft landing for you in your career. So yeah, it's fascinating to see what's going on with Michigan. And I don't know how people can defend this. I'm getting Nevadabuck in here. But it's a very long, strange trip that we've been on to deal with this. This has been a stunning fall from grace for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. And with Nevada, it's really strange. Obviously I'm having a little bit of technical stuff, but yeah, we'll go through a little bit of the Stallion stuff, and this will probably be a little bit shorter of a show as we're wrapping some stuff up. But again, let me see if I get Spiro. Spiro just texted me. He's hearing some stuff too. Like I said, my phone has been exploding all day today, so I've been absolutely loving it. But yeah, I hope that you guys are having a great weekend. This is going to be, we'll have a lot of inside intel on BuckeyeScoop.com. Again, this has been it's been a really, really fun show. It's been a fun run. And I think that, like Pat Forty and some of these national guys they're covering this thing, and it's substantial. I don't think it's the NCAA's last stand. And again, I think a lot of people, they want to say that the NCAA is irrelevant, but I think that there's a time and a place here where, you've got a lot of angry coaches, a lot of angry athletic directors, and a lot of angry, players. Again, there's players that lost. CJ Stroud would have likely won a Heisman or two if it wasn't for this cheating scandal. So he lost a ton, and a lot of these guys lost a ton. So it's been a long, strange trip, man. And I'm just happy that we've been able to cover it with you guys and get through some of the stuff. And I'm actually going to pull up Forty's article, because I thought it was really excellent yesterday that he wrote. And I've known Pat Forty for literally 20 years now. I mean, he covered me when I was at Ohio State. He wrote a bunch of nice articles about me after the Michigan game. But, he had a really good article. And I am going to toss this up on the screen. If you guys don't know Pat, he's been around for a long time. He's the guy that was he's been at ESPN. He's at SI now. I'm not sure where his other stops have been. But this was a really, interesting article. Oh, excuse me. On the, there we go. Got you guys. All right. So on the actual hearing, he talks a little bit about like what's at stake, and he's there, and he had some excellent, quotes from people that have been in these things. He talks about Stu Brown says the breakfast is the most enjoyable part, which again, the breakfast is at 7:30 in the morning or whatever. And then after that, it's straight getting grilled and prosecuted. Sorry, I'll text my better real quick. But this is a really good read. Again, if you guys, and it's spelled Forty, Forde. And I've been texting him nonstop during this, because it's been some really interesting stuff. But, with the Connor science, he talks about how, the bizarre, impermissible scouting scandal that broke new ground in the well-planned landscape of college football cheating, which again, that's almost impossible to do because I mean most of these people have figured out ways to cheat the game or bag men or whatever. But what this kid did was something that was it was so insane and crazy that it was a deal. And this is you know this is one where where he talks about him and his cohort of spies recorded opponents' play signals, which again completely illegal, completely underhanded, and it's something that these guys worked with to again try to have a huge advantage, which they did. Again, the way the betting spreads changed, it was absolutely crazy. But this is going to be like the fact that there's a traditional in-person committee on infractions hearings, which these don't normally happen very often because, again, when you're in a situation like this, and again, you guys have had a speeding ticket before, so if you get a speeding ticket, which most of us have had speeding tickets or many speeding tickets, the officer will come to your window and say, hey, if you want to appear in court, here's your date. If you'd rather just pay the fine online, go pay the fine. So again, I just pay the fine. I don't have time to go down to court and sit there and try to fight for, going 10 miles over the speed limit, whatever. So I just pay the fine. So again, that's kind of where we're at with Michigan, where people that think that they're just going to get a fine don't understand how the legal system works. Because again, this is something where I'm sure there's been a settlement that's been offered, and it's probably pretty heavy and something that Michigan is like, yeah, we don't want that. And they're just like, well, we're going to roll the dice and go to trial. Again, I mentioned last night, like if you have a life sentence, as your offer, and if you go to trial, you could get the death penalty. It's like, you might as well, I mean, if it's go to jail for life that's the only plea bargain I can get, then I'm going to go to trial and see if I can either get off on some technicality or I can, maybe get get out. Oh, there's Nevada. See if we can get him in. See if he's back. See if I can get him. Are you with us, Nevada?
I am, dude. That took like an amazing effort. That was like John Wick, like
Oh
combined with
God.
Jason Bourne trying to get back on. But I got back on. Doggone it! I'm here. Let's
No, I,
go.
I was like, that was me doing a technical balancing act. I was just kind of going through Pat Forty's article that was excellent yesterday, where he talked about, you know, um, unless the school wants to go full metal jacket on something, and most of the time there doesn't need to be a hearing. And then Pat writes, "Hoorah! Michigan is that school in that case." Because I was just talking about how, in most of these cases, if there's an issue, there's a settlement that they can agree to, and it never gets to the actual trial. Michigan is at the trial because again, the settlement is so heavy that like they're not going to accept it. So again, it's like if there's people that think, oh, this is just going to be a fine. I'm like, dude, if it was a fine, Michigan would have wrote that check 8 months ago and said, thank God, this is great. Here you go. Here's however much you want to fine us. They've got money for it. But it's something way heavier than that. And again, that's where it's a little sticky. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because again, in Pat Forty's article, which was excellent, he talks about how the traditional in-person committee of infractions hearings, they don't happen very often unless it's something crazy like this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I cited the stats last night. It's less than 1% of the cases go. So 1 in 100 go all the way. And if you believe the Michigan people are like, okay, the NCAA is offering us Sharon Moore 4-game suspension, fine, and a couple weekends that we can't do recruiting. But doggone it, that's too much. We're gonna go all the way and go all the way to hearing on this thing. That's what the story they're trying to tell you, and I'm trying to tell you that that's just completely wrong. No one goes to a full hearing unless they're just facing down double barrel shotgun madness and they're trying to get out of it, and that's where they are right now. I mean, they've got Dirty Harry there with the 44 Magnum pointed at their head, and but they've kind of created the thing for themselves. They in all these cases, whenever you get to trial, you usually, when you ask somebody, when it goes all the way in any type of legal proceeding, what is it? And most of the lawyers on both sides, you know what they'll tell you? They'll say crazy client. They'll say, because I have a crazy client. And when you have a crazy client, when you have somebody who's not reasonable, not rational, whatever, you can get sucked into all sorts of bad positions from a business standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from a settlement standpoint, et cetera. That's what Michigan is, the crazy client. Michigan is the client that's like, let's take this all the way, bet, let's take this all the way. You don't want this smoke. And now the reality is they've got no cards. It's not the great Michigan legal minds that are tearing the NCAA apart right now. They're sitting there just getting walloped by the NCAA on this, and they're going to get stuck with by the fact that they took it out this long. And I want to correct something, because I've been saying this for a while, and I want to correct this because I think this has been wrong. I've been saying lack of institutional control. I don't think they're going to get hit with lack of institutional control. I think they're going to hit with failure to monitor with mitigating circumstances. And so, subtle but important difference. I don't. It won't make any difference in terms of their ultimate crime, but I don't think lack of institutional control takes them into death penalty category. I don't think they're going to get there. I think they're going more with failure to monitor with bad aggravate. You can have aggravating factors that are either positive or negative, and Michigan has literally checked off every negative aggravating factor. Every one. Repeat offender, check. Non-cooperation, check. Destruction of evidence, check. Uh, non self-reported, check. I mean, every box that you could possibly have, they've checked. And they're not a cooperator. And the bright line being drawn by the NCAA now between the cooperating schools and how they've handled punishments with them, that they were lesser because of it, and a school like Michigan, who couldn't have been more obstinate, who couldn't have been more destructive to the process. In terms of the process of the incident, it's much like golf. In golf, when you play golf, anybody who plays golf knows you call your own penalties. You call your own penalties. It's a gentleman's game. You call your own penalties. If the ball moves, you call a stroke. And there's no referees out there on the golf course throwing flags and doing stuff. Like, you may ask for a ruling, but you call your own penalty. The NCAA is the same way. I mean, it's a self-governed institution that's set up rules for the members to adhere from, and you're supposed to call balls and strikes on yourself. And Michigan wasn't willing to play by the rules, and now they find themselves that school in this hearing, and now it's coming for them, and I'm sure they're wondering how they got there, but at the end of the day, it was a crazy client.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of crazy going on here. Again, it's crazy that you look at all of the people involved in this. Like I still have no idea how Ward Manuel has a job. The president tried to get out of there, and he just got denied at Florida. Which, again, that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. That they didn't run that by the board and say, "Hey, you guys are good with this guy." Because to get like a guy when they present one candidate as the recommended next president, and he gets voted down by the board of regents or board of trustees, whatever it is. That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And then the Harbaugh, and again, when the staff is leaving, the director of operations is leaving. I mean, let alone, I mean, there's that first wave of Michigan folks that all went to LA with Harbaugh, and or they went to Seattle with Jesse Minter, and then all of a sudden you throw in like you got the girl operations, the girl, she leaves in the middle of the summer, and there's just so much peculiarity there because they know how bad this is about to be. And I don't want to be around this. There ain't no way. And again, Sherrone Moore got a big contract to stay and be the head coach, and he got a job that he didn't really earn or deserve. But he's the patsy, so he's going to be at the front line of the firing squad, which is great. But yeah, I could see it again. Like I think that there's like a severe penalty if it's not lack of institutional control. Failure to monitor makes a ton of sense. And again, good compliance departments, and I've been hard on Ohio State sometimes because I think that we have some idiots that are in our compliance department, but we were the kings of self-reporting stuff. We would self-report everything. I mean, if you use the wrong toenail clippers, they're going to write you up and send it into compliance or something. So we would have this laundry list of things that we'd have to go through as a coaching staff when I was there, where it's like, okay, this is Doc Tressel text messaged Beanie Wells because, Beanie said, "Hey, I'm at gate 32. Can you let me in?" or something. And all of a sudden that's a violation because, in the olden days when we lived in the world of stupidity, that used to be like the olden days of recruiting, you were not allowed to text message a kid on their phone, but you could Facebook message them, Twitter message them, Instagram message them. You could message on any platform except for a text message, which again, the dumbest rule in the history of mankind. That was something that is what it was, and that was the way the game was played back then. So you have these little dumb things that we'd get turned in for, but Michigan didn't turn in anything ever. And again, like I just think that when you have compliance officers sitting on this committee and they know, like, a prudent compliance officer wants to be on the right side of the law and they want to look like they're diligent and they want to look like, hey, we're good here. We police here. We don't need you guys to come in here and raid us because we're, we want to be good stewards of the university, the Big Ten, college football, the NCAA, whatever. Michigan is literally the exact opposite. I mean, they're like, driving their car off a cliff, and they're as they're getting closer to the cliff, they're just hitting the gas, which is insane to me. Nevada, timeline. I don't really care about the timeline. I mean, obviously, it's like I tell people, this is the legal system. So in the legal system, after this hearing's over, it's you got to wait for a decision, and that'll be a few months. But yeah, this is going to be like an exceptional next couple of days. A couple super chats here.
Well, hold on. I want to ask. I want to ask you one question just before
Sure.
we're talking about Sharon Moore. Michigan hiring Sharon Moore. What was the job market for Sharon Moore? How in demand was Sharon Moore when Michigan gave him the big contract there? And like, would any other big school have hired Sharon Moore as their head football coach when Michigan did?
No, of course not. Of course not. There's no way. Of course not.
Isn't he
No way.
like the most mediocre, like just unimpressive guy there? And Michigan like throws the bag at the guy, and you're the guy that's got to take the plane down. Here's your $16 million, parting gift. But like that's what you do. We're gonna go Michigan. Okay, you go from Jim Harbaugh, who look for all his weirdness and craziness and everything else like that. That was a coach that had taken a team to a Super Bowl. That is a coach that had beaten USC in their prime at Stanford. He had won everywhere, and now you go to Sharon Moore. That's what you go with. It just shows you how far the program's fallen, man. It's been a precipitous drop for them. Their reputation is in tatters. Their recruiting is absolutely in the toilet right now. Their NIL program is completely dried up, and now they're staring down. Now they're in day one, just finished day one of a 2-day trial where they're that officially that school before in the eyes of the NCAA. I mean, I just, we've talked ad nauseum about Ward Manuel and all his foibles and why he's had to have overseen this, but like, man, they could not have mismanaged this any worse. Anybody with any kind of foresight could have looked at it and said, you know what, let's self-impose last year. Let's self-impose last year. So even if we get a 2-year, we'll take one in 24. We'll take one in 25. Underwood will be a sophomore by then, and let's go. Let's try to get this behind us and turn it. But nope, they had to try to brass it out and run through their mighty 5-loss season last year. They're going to suck every bit as bad or worse this year, and then they're going to get their punishment. So yeah, so for the record on the timing, I don't know on the time. No one can tell you exactly what do I think. Couple 2 3 months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12. That's what I think. Spiro's more in the 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Could he be right? Absolutely. We're looking at is the rule book precedents in terms of previous cases, how long it took, and whatever. But no one knows. No one knows when, when when it's going to come down. But in terms of how it's going to come down, it's going to come down hard on Michigan, and that's where we're at. But anyway, I just wanted to ask you that question about Sharon Moore because I was just thinking about that. Like when they hired him, they threw the bag at him, gave him $16 million. I'm like, who else was going to hire that guy?
I mean, like when you've got this pending, I mean, his only option would have been if someone would have made him like a tight ends coach in the NFL or something like that. And if Harbaugh would have taken him with him, but I like I said, like with the basketball program, they got it right. They got Dusty May, who's a good coach, and like then you follow it up with Sharon Moore, and it's just like it's insanity. I mean, how could you hire a guy that was like the right hand man of Connor Stallions, the guy that was texting him and buddies with him? And again, I've lived in a football building for 3 years. When I worked there, I was in the Woody Hayes 70 to 8 hours a week, and it was terrible. And the people that you're closest with in that building are the coaches and the interns because you're there with them all. The players, they're great, but the players go home at 5. The coaches are there till 10. In season, off season, you're there till 4, or you're there from 7 to 4 every day. You're in there on weekends, so you get really tight with guys. So that being said, if Connor Stallions is a little underling, and again, I know how being an intern works. I know how trying to impress the right people to kind of make your mark and kind of grease the skids to getting a promotion works. And Connor's thick as thieves with every coach in there. He's doing linebacker drill tip sheets for Charlie Partridge. He's, Sharon and him are texting. Like, again, this guy is the most, insane Michigan fan that's ever lived. And now he's actually getting to get into the building and start climbing the ladder because, again, his dream and his craziness was to be the head coach at Michigan, and he did his little manifesto and all that. So, if a guy is this crazy and he's cheating this bad and he's just so belligerent with it, like, how do you keep one of his best friends as your head coach? Like I said, in the words of Urban Meyer, you got to take a fire hose to the whole thing and get rid of everybody. Because that's the only way that you're gonna, save face in front of the NCAA. Like, I wouldn't want anybody that had anything to do with this guy still in that building. I don't care. And if the players cry, they cry. But you got to hit the reset button when you have a kid like this who just broke rules, with such a level of stupidity that we've never seen it before. Paper trails, electronic transfers of tickets. Like, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, they said he bought tickets to 50 Big Ten games. And he's probably buying 2 seats because, again, when you're, if you're getting good tickets in general, it's hard to get one ticket, in a lower level spot. In general, you're buying 2 because people don't sell tickets one at a time because you guys know how it is. If you buy a single ticket, who's going to buy the other one and go to the game by themselves? It's not going to happen. So yeah, it was extraordinary. All right, super chat time. Nick Ma, thank you for the
Hold
10.
on, hold on,
Appreciate.
no, hold on. I got one more question for you before we get to super chat. I still got because I have so many questions in my mind now. And you saw the video of Connor Stallions in 2021 at the Big Ten championship game, running onto the field and high fiving all the players after the field goal miss after the third down
Yeah.
stop or whatever it was.
Shout out Spiro on that
This
one.
honest question, stratosphere on that one.
Yeah.
Honest question to you, because I haven't been on the sidelines of games that did, do interns do that a lot? Is that a typical thing for interns to who or is that unusual to you?
I mean, if you want to get killed, you can do stuff like that. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I mean, if you want to be, the guy that's the intern mugging for the camera out in the middle of the field, fist bumping like you're the coordinator or the head coach, like, I mean, those guys are just total douchebags. Like, if you're like a real coach or a real player, like if you're a guy that doesn't really have anything to do, because again, this is my general rule of thumb. If they can leave you behind on game day and nothing really changes, then you don't need to be out in the middle of the field. So, like, again, when I was a grad assistant, they could have left me behind and they still would have been able to do most of the same stuff. Now, again, I was good at what I did. I'd sit up in the box. I'd give Tom Herman all of the stuff I was going to talk to Ed Warner, get the stuff sorted out. But there's guys that are way lower on the totem pole, like literally unpaid interns, which is what Connor was. In 21, I guarantee he was an unpaid intern. And he's out there fist bumping and, once, because again, guys that do that kind of stuff, they want to be on camera. They want to go run out and give Hutchinson a big hug and kiss in the middle of the field after a big play, and that's just like dude, like go stand back there and chart plays, hold your clipboard. Like that's where your spot is when you're one of those guys. You're not supposed to be out there like you're
No, but
like you're Luke
here's the thing,
Fickle or whatever.
I mean, I know that he's a douchebag. I know that he's like completely. I know that. My question is, have you seen that happen? Do interns run out in the field and do that, or have you never seen that? Rarely seen it? Seen
I
it a
I
lot?
I mean, if you run out there like in front of Luke Fickle and stuff, and those guys, like I see Luke Fickle and position coaches, and and again, like I'm not against them being excited, but there's one thing to like be a member of the team. Again, like it's like Jim Chelsea used to always say, like celebrate with your teammates, like celebrate as a group. But like when you're like the one guy and you're out at the hash and you're like, yeah, let's go, like I mean, you're just a douchebag. Like you're just pining for the camera. And there's people that do that. It's ridiculous, but that's a quick way to get into the into not the doghouse, but like you just look like such a douchebag when you do that, like to the rest of the coaches and to people that like really know coaching and really know football. Like, but again, that's his thing. He's obsessed with like, you know, being on the field after the Ohio State Michigan game where he's got his little baklava on and he's out there and he's got to make sure he's on the field and he gives all the guys a big hug. Like he can't stay away. Got to be at the national championship. Got to be on Barstool Sports. Like he craves attention. That's his thing. Like because he's a nobody, so he wants. He wanted to be a somebody, and he just destroyed the program basically because they're gonna get smoked. So yeah, I've never seen if an intern ever did that, I'd be like, dude, like really? Like that's what you're gonna do? You're gonna go out there and like jump in front of Ryan Day? It's like, what it's like? It's like when there's douchebag coaches at Ohio State that like want to stand next to Ryan Day at the end of the game or when there's a big play so they can get on camera. Because otherwise you'd never know that they existed as part of the program. But it's like, well, we win some big game and they're standing right next to Ryan Day, right as the game ends, and the camera goes to Ryan, and then the guy's head is right next to him so that people can say, hey, I saw you on TV. And I'm like, just kill me now, please. We need some guys, like it's always like we need some guys that are actual good coaches. And we've got 750 coaches now. So at this point, there's no turning back with the staffs that we have. But I'm just like, there are certain guys, man, they love the attention. And I don't know why, but that's just kind of what their thing is. Nick Maddox for the 10. He says, I think Connor will lie to their face, and that pisses them off even more. The other choice is he came clean to not get a huge suspension. He's named either way. He's not going to come clean at this point. I mean, again, the one good thing about that Netflix documentary was they literally showed a glimpse inside of the trial, inside of the when he's getting grilled by the NCAA, and he's so like ambivalent to the truth that he just, I don't know if that's me. I mean, that could, they literally show him the photo of him on the Central Michigan sideline. And I'm sure that they talked to Jim McElwain and they talked to Central Michigan, and Central Michigan did an investigation. Because again, they fired the coach that let him on the field and gave him the stuff. And then they also gave him, Jim McElwain, they gave him a fruit basket and a ham sandwich and a bus ticket to Naples, Florida, or wherever he's retired to. Because he retired in the dead of the night, left $2.5 million on the table. So I don't know, man. I knowing how this guy rolls, man, I don't think that there's I don't think there's like everything he's done has been like as dumb of a strategy as you could have. So I don't know why he'd ever change course. Nevada, what are your thoughts? Again, Nick, I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for being on here every night. He says, I think Connor lied to their face and ticked them off even more. The other choice, he came clean not to get a huge suspension. I don't know, Nevada. I can't see him at this point shifting gears because when you're insane, it's hard to deal with insane people. Like when people are crazy's gonna crazy, and we know crazy people, and like they're just always gonna be crazy. You can't rationalize with them. You can't do whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I think people are under a mistake. Connor Saunders wasn't brought there to talk. I mean, he's sitting there on the side eating like a pecan roll, drinking orange juice, watching the thing kind of going on. For him, as you said before, he craves attention. So he knew him showing up would get him attention. But his testimony is already on the record. That's why they recorded all that. We saw his testimony to the NCAA as part of that Netflix documentary. We saw him lie to the NCAA because no person with a functioning brain really believes if I ask you a question, Kirk, were you on the sideline at this game, that you're not going to be able to tell me whether or not that was you or not on the sideline. You know what I'm saying? So when you choose to lie in the most ridiculous way possible, and they know that you're lying, and somehow you feel you're being really clever, well, And that's your testimony. So no, he was just an observer there today to listen to everything, to try to get his name out in the public one more time. Um, but his testimony and everything's already part of the record, and he's already kind of sunk himself with the NCAA. So yeah, he's not helping.
Well, because you know what's going to happen is like obviously like the NCAA and Central Michigan are doing an investigation as to how did this kid get on the sideline, and so one of those guys is going to say, "Hey, yeah, it was me. I screwed up. Beg for mercy." Or the guy that got fired at Central Michigan, and so you can deny it, but they're going to rat on you because these are young coaches. They're young and stupid, and they did something stupid and something illegal, and they're going to pay a price for it. And he lost his job. I mean, coaching in the max is a good job. You're making a good salary, and I'm sure you probably have a wife and kids and whatever. So it's like, when you do something that's stupid and you get caught doing it, it's going to be it's a rough road to hoe, like getting back into the profession. Ranjit Shori, RJ, appreciate what you do. Thanks for the 5. He says, what should Michigan have done over the past year and a half in order to take the hit and be in a much better position now? Nevada, OH.
Oh,
You want to go first on this one? Because I know that we're probably going to be in lockstep. Go ahead and go.
Yeah, I mean, again, you self-impose in 2024. You impose meaningful punishment on the people, the staff that remains, including Sharon Moore. You ban counter stallions from all your facilities. You give them some sort of 10-year facility ban or whatever it is. You do the same thing with Jim. You don't invite Jim Harbaugh back to be the honorary captain and sit in the chair of cheer at your opener. You fire all the other administrative staff that were kind of asleep at the switch on this. You beg for forgiveness from the NCAA and vow to clean house. I mean, that's what you do, and you get ahead of it. And frankly, I think they could have done it without that much damage to themselves, because what would they have lost by losing the 2024 season? The 2024 season was a bust for them. They lost 5 games. Like that, and this year, how good are they going to be this year? The answer is not very. So like you could have had this entire thing behind you by the end of 2025 and be sailing. Instead, you're just going into the storm now. And I think huge miscalculation on their part, especially when cooperation and the mitigating factors are going to be what takes this from just 6 level 1s to 6 level 1s with aggravating factors on top of it. That's what ultimately it's going to stick. I guarantee you, when we finally read the final judgment, it's going to be the aggravating factors that sinks Michigan, and why they're going to get the most serious penalties on this, because they didn't seek to mitigate, they didn't seek to cooperate, and as a result, they're going to get the hammer.
Well, it's like, I mean, like, where do I start? I mean, I'd fire the athletic director. I'd fire the president. I'd fire every idiot that was promoting this, rooting for it, typing bet. Get rid of all of them. Clean the house out. Say, look, I would say, look, because I would go to the NCAA and say, look, we screwed up. We had an issue. We've cleaned house. We self-imposed the bowl ban. Because again, you lose the meaningless Alabama bowl win that nobody cares about. End the season on the bowl ban. And again, there's some people say, oh, well, it's, these kids didn't do it, whatever. It's like, well, if the transfer portal, kids can leave if they want to. And you guys have known how I've harped on how stupid it was that we didn't take a bowl ban in 2011 when we were 6-7, worst team in Ohio State history, record wise. I mean, again, go get on Wikipedia. Look how many times we've lost 7 games in one season at the Ohio State University. That's the only time. So we lost 70. We were 6-6 and we played in a bowl game. And I was like, and our poor seniors like Mike Brewster and Mike Adams and all these kids, they didn't want to play in that game. That season was it was an animal stricken with cancer that had no time left. And it's like, just put a bullet in it and put it out of its misery, because that's kind of where it was. It was just miserable. And we went down there, we lose another game. So we end up being under 500 for the first time ever, I think, or close to it. And the next year we have a shot to win a national championship, and we can't play because we got a bowl ban. So to run a correct program, you have to self-police. And again, am I acting like Ohio State is perfect? No. We make mistakes. We do dumb things. Again, it is what it is. But you have to show some contrition. And that's the amazing thing with Michigan is they've just like, if they were the captain of the Titanic, instead of like trying to spin the wheel and move to the left of where the iceberg was, they are like turning it into it, and they're hitting they're putting the throttle down and trying to drive through the iceberg. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like, I mean, do you really think that it's worth keeping? Is it really worth fighting to keep Sharon Moore? Again, Jim Tressel got fired because Ohio State was trying to remove themselves from anything, and he didn't do anything compared to this. But they're like, look, we're gonna kind of self-impose and hammer Tress and get rid of him, and like, if I'm Michigan, like, I get rid of the athletic director, I get rid of the president, I get rid of the entire football staff is gone. Bowl ban this year, and start from scratch again. I think that if you want to gain favor from the NCAA, which not everybody does, the best thing to do is self-police and say, look, we take this seriously. We screwed up. And that's why I was so disappointed that we didn't bowl ban ourselves when we had a terrible season, because you can show up and say, hey, look, we took our medicine. We're sorry. But Michigan, again, it starts at the top with Harbaugh. And I know that he's gone. I know he took the golden parachute, went out to LA. But when his attitude is publicly, again, Spiro's got all these great quotes from Harbaugh. He's talking about integrity. It's like either a 100% scale, or is it you either get an A or an F. There's no in between with integrity. And it's like, he's the king of bluster and saying things that are like, he literally says one thing and does the exact opposite every time. So when you're a guy who's made $100 million coaching in his career, and you've got all these Sharon Moore's a young kid. He's 37, 38 years old. You got Connor Stallions, who's insane. And they all see that that's how he's made it, and he's moved up the ladder and whatever. Like, they're going to emulate that. And if it doesn't start at the top with the rules, then those guys are all going to be breaking them. Again, he's the guy that went and had the hamburger and the milk at breakfast at 7 a.m. with a recruit on campus during COVID. That was him. That wasn't his O-line coach or some tight ends coach or some offensive coordinator or some low-level staffer. It's him. Willingly and openly breaking a rule, which, again, the stupidity of going to a diner with a recruit in the middle of campus during a dead period, a COVID imposed dead period, it's just literally insane. Like, I couldn't imagine if Urban Meyer, because again, a lot of the people that are on message boards, Buckeye Scoop, whatever, they have a general gist of the rules. So the general gist of the rules is the fact that, hey, you're not allowed to have kids on campus right now. So again, like when Ohio State doesn't have any official visits during the COVID period for months, people know that. So if all of a sudden there's you see, oh, hey, why is he with that, that 4-star prospect? Then I don't know. But it's the bowl ban last year would have been the first step. I would have fired the athletic director, fired the president, fired Sharon Moore, and started the whole thing from scratch and say, guys, all right, we already put in a bowl ban. We fired our coach, so you didn't have to suspend him. He's gone. Connor Stallions permanent banned, and then bring on whatever else you guys got to give us. But that's where I would have started. All right, Michael Jarrett, thank you for the 10. Jim Harbaugh isn't banned along with Connor Stallions for life. I will be shocked. Early Christmas is here, everyone. Waiting for the punishment to be built in. Square. Can't wait to laugh and point. Nevada OH. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait either, because I hate Michigan so much, and they're so repugnant and arrogant and stupid. That honestly reminds me of Penn State. I mean, Penn State fans were the biggest, the most vile human beings in the world were Penn State fans. And again, when the Tressel stuff happened, it was like, oh, we would never under Joe Pa. Joe Pa would never. Clean, classy, by the book, black tennis shoes, and Joe Pa makes all our kids go to class and like the whole 9 yards. And then all of a sudden, uh, none of that was true. And then all of a sudden the Sandusky thing hits and they get smashed into, they get hit by the Infinity Stone and, sanctioned into the Stone Age for about 4 or 5 years. I was like, yeah, I mean, don't be throwing stones in a glass house, Penn State. And Michigan is actually 10 times worse than there. General Chrome, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my dude. You guys are doing God's work. I appreciate you, man. It's funny. That's literally what I texted Pat 40 today. I said, you're doing God's work today from that parking lot. Satan is a skunk weasel. Yes, he is. I can confirm. I can't wait to see the shock from the idiots up north. Meet up soon. Nevada OH. Nevada is dialing back in, so I'll say IO for you. Scoot fam salute. Appreciate you guys. I like that. Scoot fam salute. That's actually a fire emoji. So, Dub V Buckeye. Appreciate you, my dude. You guys are always on here. You guys are the best. Got a huge crowd tonight for a Friday night. Oh, God. Here we go. Thanks for the 10. He says, breaking news. Lard Manual has announced that on opening date, the Big House University has contracted with a major company to give the first 50,000 fans a soap on a rope. Nevada OH. Not here, so I'll say IO. Yeah, that's about what it's going to feel like this year, especially when we go up there, because our team's going to be loaded and they're going to be playing a freshman quarterback who's going to be terrified. So I'm really excited about the prospects going forward. But yeah, that's the latest and greatest. And we work to get our boy Nevada. He is he's trying to get back in. So we'll get this cleaned up for you guys. So, but I just appreciate you guys so much for always being with us. Again, we're going to wrap this thing up. I hope you guys are having a great Friday. Thank you guys for kicking in with us. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Appreciate you guys so very much for being on here each and every night. Again, this is such a huge show because you guys make it one, and we're thankful for that. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. If you want to help us out in a big way, man, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. We've been growing that. It's been very helpful of you guys. We appreciate you guys. But thank you guys for all that you guys do. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We'll be back tomorrow, probably around 5-ish. There's a UFC card, and Nevada and I like to watch those and check out the action. We'll have some picks for you guys if you guys are into some of the MMA betting. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great Friday. See you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.